Two icons 80 years old and one day apart, this week tributes for Dolly Parton and Tim Curry began appearing in the same feeds, leaving fans stunned by the timing. Stay with me, because the connection between these two icons goes far beyond their age and the day their tributes appeared. Here's what happened in order. On Tuesday, the world got word that the country music icon, songwriter, philanthropist, and star of 9 to 5 and Steel Magnolias died Tuesday at the age of 80. Her reps told people that she died following a brief battle with cancer, though the exact type was never disclosed. According to Variety, the singer died after a brief battle with cancer at Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center in Nashville, with her reps telling people she was surrounded by loved ones. Less than 24 hours later, before the world had even finished processing that loss, a second wave hit. Law enforcement sources told TMZ that Tim Curry died late Tuesday night at his home in Los Angeles, and no foul play is suspected. Police were called to a house in North Hollywood, and Variety confirmed through his team that Curry's longtime manager, Marcia Hurwitz, confirmed to Variety that Curry died peacefully at his Toluca Lake home. He was 80 years old too, the exact same age Parton had been when she passed. That detail alone was enough to stop scrolling thumbs everywhere. One Yahoo Entertainment piece put it plainly: Tim Curry, star of Home Alone 2, It and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, has passed away at 80 after facing health challenges. And his death comes as the world is still mourning the death of country music icon Dolly Parton, who died a day before him, also at the age of 80. Same age, back-to-back days, two completely different corners of entertainment. That's the link that's got everyone talking. The reaction online was immediate and raw. The back-to-back deaths of Dolly Parton and Tim Curry sent shockwaves through the industry, leading to intense reactions from people online over the passing of these icons of pop culture. Another outlet described the mood bluntly: check on the drag queens in your life this week. One writer put it, adding, "We're really not sure how much more loss the world of entertainment can take." A separate roundup of fan reaction summed up the exhaustion in a single line, noting that people simply couldn't catch a break that week. And it wasn't just casual fans, people who'd built entire pieces of their identity around Rocky Horror midnight screenings or grown up on Dolly's music, were suddenly mourning two towering, wildly different careers in the same 24-hour window. A Philo blog piece framed it as a shared moment of cultural loss, noting that fans are remembering two unforgettable performers this week: Dolly Parton and Tim Curry, whose careers spanned more than 5 decades and left an indelible mark on music, television, and film, both known for their unmistakable personalities and memorable performances. But the link people kept circling back to wasn't just the shared timing. It was the number 80. Two legends, born decades apart in different countries, working in different industries, hitting the exact same age before their bodies gave out, within a day of each other. That's the coincidence that turned two separate obituaries into one shared headline across entertainment media this week. So who were these two people, and how did their final years actually play out before this collided into one story? That's where the timeline gets even more interesting, because both of them had been quietly fighting their own battles for years before any of this became public. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to go back and look at what each of them had actually been dealing with before their deaths. Start with Dolly. On the surface, she seemed unstoppable right up until the end. But behind the scenes, things had been harder than most fans realized. Back in March, she gave a health update at Dollywood that revealed just how much grief had worn her down. Dolly Parton delivered a candid health update while kicking off the 2026 season at Dollywood, revealing grief took a physical toll after the death of her husband of nearly 6 decades, Carl Dean. She told fans she'd been worn down and worn out while grieving for her late husband, and also dealing with a few health setbacks. That grief had a timeline of its own. Dean had died at age 82 after 58 years of marriage, and losing him clearly took something out of Dolly that touring and stage lights couldn't fix. She'd already postponed a Las Vegas residency because of ongoing health issues, and when speculation started swirling, she pushed back on social media, insisting she was fine. Fans latched onto one particular caption where she wrote plainly that she wasn't dead yet. There was also a more physical piece of the puzzle. In a video posted in May, Dolly opened up about a recurring issue that had plagued her for years. She explained that she'd always had problems with kidney stones, joking that doctors dug more stones out of her in a year than a rock quarry in Rockwood, Tennessee, before adding more seriously that her immune system and digestive system had gotten out of whack. Over the past couple of years, she sounded hopeful in that video, telling fans she expected to be back up to full strength soon. That's part of why the news landed as such a shock. Insiders close to her described her death as sudden even to people who already knew she was sick. Her death was sudden even for loved ones who knew she'd been dealing with health issues. And sources said her family and friends knew she was sick, but still believed she'd pull through. Her nephew, Brian Seaver, ended up being the one to share the news publicly, describing her in his statement as an aunt, a sister, a sis to one generation, and a jiggy to the next, the kind of language that made clear this wasn't just a public figure dying. It was a family losing their matriarch on the same week the world lost its Jelaine. Now flip over to Tim Curry, whose health struggles had actually been public knowledge for over a decade, just not something most casual fans thought about day to day. The root of it all traced back to 2012. Curry had suffered from several health issues since having a severe stroke in 2012. That stroke didn't just slow him down, it fundamentally changed how he lived. His final years were plagued by the effects from his 2012 stroke, during which he'd experienced a major stroke and underwent brain surgery. And from then on, he was wheelchair-bound and unable to walk. Curry didn't hide this from fans either. Less than a year before he died, he addressed it directly at a screening of the film that made him famous. He told the audience plainly that he still couldn't walk, which was why he was in what he called his silly chair, and that it was very limiting. It's a strange kind of parallel. Two performers, both 80, both publicly reassuring fans in the months before their deaths that they were managing just fine, both quietly running out of time regardless. Curry's stroke had left him with complete paralysis on his left side, though he'd retained the ability to speak, which meant the voice that had defined characters, like Pennywise and Frankenfurter, never actually left him, even as his body did. He'd spent that final decade doing what he could, narrating, appearing at tributes, publishing a memoir. He just couldn't do it standing up anymore. So on paper, these are two completely separate medical stories. A cancer diagnosis that moved fast, and a stroke that had been grinding away for 14 years. But they converged on the exact same week, at the exact same age. And that convergence is what actually created the story everyone's now talking about. Once both deaths were confirmed, the tributes started pouring in almost simultaneously, and the language people used made it clear just how connected these two losses felt in real time. For Dolly, her team's own statement set the tone. Her reps told people that our beloved Dolly Parton spent her life and career, bringing joy, laughter, hope, and integrity into everything she touched, adding that her unmatched generosity reached the lives of countless people whom she would never meet. Yet she was always there to offer a helping hand. They pointed specifically to the hundreds of millions of books donated through her imagination library and her funding of research that helped create a life-saving vaccine used around the world, as proof of what she left behind. For Curry, the tributes came from the exact people who'd spent decades standing next to him on set. Carol Burnett, his on-screen sister in Annie, posted a clip from the film and wrote that nobody could play lovable villains better than he could, calling him a dear friend she was blessed to know. His Clue co-star Michael McKean revealed that his last real conversation with Curry had been about life, love, and laughter, and wrote that the difficult physical state Curry had lived in for years had now ended, calling it a strange kind of blessing, before signing off with a simple "R.I.P. my friend." Leslie Ann Warren, another Clue castmate, called him her dear companion in crime, the brilliant, hilarious, hysterically funny magician of artistry, writing that it had been an unbelievable joy to share a sound stage with such a master talent, that she adored him and blessing his wild and inspired soul. Then there was Luke Evans, who just wrapped a run playing Curry's most famous role on Broadway. He revealed he'd actually written Curry a letter only 3 weeks before his death, thanking him for his fearless performance and for creating something so enduring, and for inspiring generations of actors to be a little braver than they thought they could be. Reading that back now, after everything, hits differently. A goodbye letter that turned out to be exactly that, sent without either of them fully realizing it. Beyond the direct co-stars, other names weighed in too. Josh Gad posted simply that it was another day, another legend lost. Thanking Curry for his gifts, Jillian Bell said she was devastated. Elaine Hendricks, who'd worked with Curry in the 90s, called him the kindest man and one of the biggest talents she'd ever encountered. And running underneath almost every single one of these tributes was the same undertone: that this loss was landing on top of another one that hadn't even had 24 hours to breathe. One entertainment writer captured that exhaustion directly, admitting they'd planned to write something about Dolly, only for the day to bring a second loss. Before they'd even finished processing the first, they described a kind of doom that hadn't left their body, calling it something they couldn't quite wrap their arms around. And then, hours later, finding themselves having to process Curry's death on top of it. That's really the heart of why this pairing exploded across headlines and timelines the way it did. It's not that anyone's suggesting some grand hidden connection between a country legend from Tennessee and a British stage actor known for horror comedy villains. It's that two people who shaped completely different parts of pop culture happened to leave it within a day of each other at the exact same age. After years of separately and privately managing health battles that the public only partially understood. Dolly's fight was fast, a diagnosis, then gone within what her team called a brief battle. Curry's fight was slow, over a decade of rebuilding a life around a body that had stopped, fully cooperating in 2012, only for it to finally catch up with him this week. Put those two side by side, and you get exactly what shook the internet. Not one death, but two, stacked on top of each other, both landing on 80. Both loved by generations who grew up on completely different soundtracks. One belting out Jolene from a Tennessee stage, the other cackling through a mansion full of secrets in a board game turned movie. Different worlds, same week, same age, same wave of grief, crashing over an industry that, as more than one person put it this week, genuinely couldn't catch a break.